Hello everyone, my name is Tolulope Agaje. I'm a first-year geology graduate student at Kansas State University. Today I'll be talking about the effects of heterogeneity on effective permeability in fractured aquifers. Effective permeability relates to the overall capacity of the formation to transmit fluid. In fractured aquifer, fracture network plays an important role in the permeability of the aquifer. We have several properties and characteristics of fracture that controls the effective permeability. Examples include the fracture aperture, orientation, density, connectivity, etc. For this study, we considered the effect of fracture density on effective permeability and also how the domain size controls the effective permeability. The objectives of this study include to generate discrete fracture network, to simulate fluid flow for different realization, and to investigate the effect of domain size on effective permeability. We made three assumptions for this project. The first assumption we made was that for a fractured aquifer, fracture has the major control on effective permeability. Meaning for this study, we set our matrix permeability to be 0 as we considered it negligible. We also made an assumption that fracture size distribution follows an exponential probability distribution, which we will see more detail in subsequent slide. Or we made an assumption that fracture aperture and length are correlated. The first thing we did in this study was to generate the discrete fracture network using DFN-Gen. A DFN-Gen employs two algorithms, FRAM and Lagrange. The FRAM was used to generate the discrete fracture network. We set some fracture parameters such as the minimum fracture length, the maximum fracture length, and the mean fracture length. And also we employed two different domain size, which are attributed to be the aquifer size for this project. We employed 10 by 10 by 10 domain size and 20 by 20 by 20 domain size. Lagrange was used to mesh the domain to further reveal the heterogeneity of the aquifer, and we simulated the flow using PFFlowTran. Exponential distribution, like I mentioned earlier, was used to constrain the fracture size distribution in the aquifer. The exponential distribution is lambda exponent minus lambda x, and lambda is the inverse of mu, which is our mean fracture length. The Fischer distribution was used to constrain the fracture orientation in the aquifer, which is a function of x, mu, and k. The mu stands for the main direction vector, which can be expressed in terms of spherical coordinates, and k stands for the concentration parameter that defines the degree of clustering around the main direction, and x is the fracture length. The last formula was used to simulate the effective permeability based on Darcy's assumption. The Q stands for discharge, the beta stands for kinematic velocity of water, the rho stands for density of water, A stands for area, and a change in P stands for pressure drop. The graph is talking about the distribution of fracture size in the aquifer, which follows an exponential distribution. We're able to come up with different realizations for our fracture network in the aquifer at different fracture intensity value. The P32 stands for fracture intensity, which is a function of how many fracture we have in the aquifer. At low P32 values, we have a very low number of fractures, and at high P32 values, we have high number of fractures, and we have a lot of interconnectivity between the fractures. Based on this model, we're able to come up with different conclusions. The first conclusion we made was that we made a plot of the effective permeability against the fracture density, and we detected a sigmoidal relationship between the effective permeability and fracture density. At low fracture density values, you observe a phase transition between the effective permeability and fracture density. At high fracture density value, we observe a more stable relationship between the effective permeability and fracture density. We also found an inverse relationship between the domain size and effective permeability at high fracture density values. At low fracture density values, we observe a proportional relationship between the domain size and effective permeability, and at high fracture density values, we observe an inverse relationship, that is, as the domain size increases, the effective permeability reduces. Based on this, our study, we've been able to demonstrate the relationship between fracture density and effective permeability, and also how the domain size controls the effective permeability in a fractured aquifer. Thank you.